Consider the voice you are hearing in your head right now, the one reading these words, judging the tone, perhaps agreeing or pushing back. It feels like yours, but that sense of ownership is the first wall between you and the reality of your own mind. This question is older than writing. The ancient Greeks used the word logos to describe reason, language, and the mathematical order of the universe simultaneously. They debated whether thinking was an act humans performed or a universal property that humans merely borrowed. Plato argued that our highest concepts were not original inventions, but memories of a perfect world we lived in before birth. We weren't creating ideas, we were recalling them. Eastern Buddhist philosophers spent centuries dismantling the idea of a thinking self entirely. They watched thoughts arise in the mind the way clouds appear in an empty sky, forming from existing conditions rather than an independent author.
René Descartes attempted to find a different anchor in the 17th century with his statement, "I think, therefore I am." He tied human identity to the act of thinking, assuming that the presence of a thought proved the existence of an independent thinker. Modern neuroscience has spent the last few decades testing that anchor. In 1983, Benjamin Libet conducted an experiment that revealed a startling delay in our conscious life. This timeline maps the electrical activity in a subject's brain during a simple choice. Libet found that neurons fire and the decision is registered up to 10 seconds before the subject has any conscious awareness of making a choice. This suggests we are less like a playwright writing a script and more like an audience member sitting in the dark. We watch the play unfold, occasionally leaning over to a friend to claim we wrote the dialogue that just happened. Even when we have a raw, wordless insight, the architecture of language immediately takes over. We force the experience into predetermined categories and vocabulary we didn't invent. Our thoughts take the shape language allows them to have. If biology makes the decision before we do, and language traps the results in a borrowed structure, the internal monologue begins to look like a shaped reaction rather than an original creation. It is tempting to believe that even if the timing and the words are borrowed, the underlying emotions remain private and self-generated. In the 1990s, Giacomo Rizzolatti discovered a neurological mechanism that challenges the boundary of the individual: mirror neurons. These cells fire both when you perform an action and when you watch someone else do it. When you observe another person in pain, the corresponding regions in your own brain activate, creating a chemical reflection of their experience. This neural resonance means our nervous systems catch optimism, pessimism, and anxiety from the crowd, like a cold. We generate the chemical reality of stress because of the frequency of the room before our conscious mind even registers that the other person is anxious. We are a kind of living palimpsest, a page scraped clean and overwritten 1,000 times. We carry inherited fears from our parents, social convictions from our peers, and habits from everyone who mattered. Mirror neurons demonstrate that a startling degree of our inner life is a reflection of others. The idea of a sealed container doing its own thinking is a scientific illusion. We are permeable membranes, constantly resonating with the environment. This brings us to what philosopher David Chalmers calls the hard problem of consciousness. Physics currently has no explanation for how physical matter, wet chemistry, and electricity produce the subjective experience of being you. Some physicists propose an interface theory, that the brain does not create consciousness, but acts as an antenna tuning into it. In this model, the brain is a receiver for a signal broadcast from an external source. This reframes awareness as a fundamental property of the universe, like gravity or charge. It is a field that the brain merely accesses. This leads to the final wall between us and our thoughts. The universe was thinking long before we were. Carl Sagan provided a philosophical anchor for this perspective on our place in the arithmetic of the cosmos. He famously said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." The thought you are having right now traveled 13.8 billion years through stellar explosions and human culture to reach this moment. On the scale of the universe, we are a rounding error. Yet each mind is a unique intersection, a specific filter of memory, language, and love that has never existed in this configuration before. You are the only stage in the universe where this specific version of cosmic thinking is taking place. Your mind is where 13.8 billion years of universal history finally wakes up and looks around.